Michigan takes to the golf course as the Champions Circle impresses yet again with another NIL event on this Locked On Wolverines.
You are Locked On Wolverines, your daily podcast on the Michigan Wolverines, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Happy Monday. We are back and doing it. Locked On Wolverines podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Where's your team every day? I am your man on the ground, Isaiah Hole, publisher of Wolverines Wire through USA Today Sports Media Group. I was on the ground, and hence I am, if you're watching, dressed very unlike me in golf attire. I know you're used to me wearing, I don't want to say edgy clothing, certainly more comfortable clothing than what I am currently wearing. Anyway, today we are going to kind of recap what I witnessed. Maybe some inside info here and there from just some things that I gleaned from the golf outing that I was just at over at Orchard Lake Country Club. It is still ongoing as I say this. So huge shout out to Valiant, Champions Circle, and everything that they have done. I mean, it was an impressive event. It was just everybody pretty much. And it was funny. Because I brought Sarah with me, as usual, and she was very like, it's like trying to explain who everybody is, whether it's whether it's players that she hasn't met yet, whether it's coaches, whether it's, even Ward Manuel, Santa Ono, some of those people that were there. I mean, it was a great showing, and it was just about everybody that you can imagine. Jim Harbaugh, as I said, Ward Manuel, Santa Ono, Blake Corum, JJ McCarthy, Donovan Edwards, Roman Wilson, Cornelius Johnson. It's pretty much down the line. Maybe there were certainly some transfers I didn't necessarily see. That doesn't mean they weren't there, right? I mean, it was everybody. Then you had people like Taylor Lewan doing a podcast live from there. You had Adam Schefter, who was there as well. It was a pretty, for those who got the invite and got to donate, which it had a hefty price tag associated. It was everything that you could pretty much ask for if you're a Michigan fan. I mean, it was a wild event in that sense. And these people then, like, they got the hobnob, and we took their pictures all together, and then they went out and played golf with Michigan players. I mean, they played with some, whether it wasn't even just completely football centric. There were a couple basketball players there: Doug McDaniel, Jace Howard. Kim Barnes-Erico was there. The women's golf coach was there. It was an impressive event. And then on top of it, you had some recruiting people. Every single Michigan head football assistant coach was there. Even some that were above the line, some that were below the line. And I got to have a few good conversations. I'll share a couple off the record notes with some of the things that came from it. But I mean, this was as impressive of an event, and considering this is NIL in action, this is to benefit the players. Oh, wow, the players get to have a good time, right? They were having a great time for the most part. A couple of them were lamenting their inability to hit good drives. Some of them were like, listen, I'm just putting. One of them, I won't share because I know they were embarrassed, even just me watching them. But like one of them, who was a starter, it was like, no, listen, I'm just putting. I did not have a good time doing the driving and using the clubs and, the irons and such. And then they get out there and tried to drive it because I coerced them to. And then he topped the ball off and was like, see? And I'm like, listen, that is how I can personally relate to you at this moment. I can't relate to you with the football because I can't play football, right? Like there's a reason why I talk about football compared to otherwise. And I talk about football. I don't play football, but golf. All right, you and we're doing the same thing. I topped the ball off too. I mean, I haven't played in a long time. Since 2019, I think was the last time I played. And topping the ball off is my specialty. It is what I am good at. I'm very good at topping the ball off. So, but I mean, anyone who was basically a major player on the team was there. for the most part. There were a few omissions. There certainly were a handful of players that I did not see. Now that I'm kind of thinking about it, there were some guys that were vying for starting roles that weren't there, but everyone that was pretty much cemented firmly as a starter pretty much was there. Pretty much. Now, what I can tell you that is kind of a generalization here is that the coaches, they're ready for tomorrow. Like they were enjoying this. They were enjoying the weather. They were enjoying the kind of leisure, that kind of moment. Some of them went places, some of them didn't, but they're ready for tomorrow. And if you don't know what tomorrow is, Tuesday is when the players report to camp, and then the first practice is on Wednesday. So they're ready to get this going. And I do definitely feel like there is an optimism that I haven't seen. I mean, last year was certainly a year of optimism. They certainly have a lot of optimism at this moment. So I am excited to see where they go. But I just realized there's some things that I was planning on saying that I can't say because they would be NCAA. I don't know that they'd be NCAA violations, but I don't want to risk it. I think they could be construed as that. But certainly, it was a great event. I know that there's a little bit of chagrin for some of the recruiting that's happened as of late. And I think that, I mean, obviously the Aaron Scott of it all happened yesterday. That I don't even want to say that felt like a sore subject. It didn't necessarily feel like a sore subject. It just felt like kind of the dead dove do not eat. I don't know what else we expected. But nonetheless, I don't think that we can talk about this for 25 minutes because there's some things that I was going to share, and I just kind of feel like I will say this. Jim Harbaugh was, in retrospect, annoyed by the Buckeye line of questioning at Big Ten Media Days, but I don't think I'm necessarily breaking anything that's wild, right? I think it is what it is there. I mean, I was annoyed by it, so no surprise that Jim Harbaugh wasn't annoyed. But it was good to see him in his element. I followed him around for 2 holes, and he was certainly in a great mood to be hobnobbing and glad-handing and all of those types of things. As were the players. They were very social, and they also certainly welcomed Sarah, as did a lot of the golfers and everything. So it was just a really cool event. And on top of it, you had a couple of parents there. Jim McCarthy was there, and Mike Keegan, Trevor Keegan's father, was there. So, yeah, I'm recognizing now in this moment that I don't think that I've got a full 30 minutes. So we're going to move on, and we're going to continue to talk about some of the things that came out of Big Ten Media Days. Because my eyes were too big for my stomach, I think is the best way to put it. Before we do move on, for a championship team, it's all about making sure every player is a perfect fit. It's the same when it comes to your vehicle. Every part needs to fit just right. So the next time you need parts and accessories, head to eBay Motors. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, you can be sure every part you need fits exactly right the first time around. So just add your ride to My Garage, look for the green check to know that the part will fit or your money back. Because just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game when you shop on eBay Motors. And with over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll be back in the game in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home a win when the right parts are guaranteed. Get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers, eligible items only, exclusions apply. I've got a very needy Zuri here with me. I've been gone all day. And since I've been home, I haven't been paying any attention to her because I've been editing photos so that they can have them. So those photos that you see that will be coming out on Valiant, Champion Circle, and wherever else is likely to come from either Sarah or I. So I'm excited for you to see some of those. I think the coolest moment was watching Jim Harbaugh sink a 55-foot putt. I mean, and it had a curve and everything. I think he was the first one that went to go do it because it was kind of a scramble. And he went up there and he just drained it. Got a birdie for the group. And this after he was a little miffed about there being par for 2. for the first 2 holes that he played. But I mean, it was an all hands on deck effort. Every single assistant coach was there. Jerome Moore, Jesse Minter, Chris Partridge, Steve Clinkscale, Jay Harbaugh, Grant Newsom, Mike Hart. I mean, even down to like Denard Robinson, LaTroy Lewis, Connor Stallions, Sam Popper. I mean, it was everybody pretty much. There was a handful of omissions. My guy Robbie Emery was there. Handful of omissions, really. No Christina DeRuyter, no Albert Karchnia. That's basically about it as I can recall at the moment of people. Chris Bryant was there. I mean, it was everybody. So they are very excited, though. As much as I talked to them about the event that was at hand, I asked as many people. I'm like, how much are you wishing that summer could be prolonged, or how much are you ready to get involved in the actual preparing for the season? Every single person, like, this is what I've been waiting for is tomorrow. Tomorrow and the next day are the days that I've been waiting for all along. So they're beyond excited about getting to the actual season portion. That said, let's get to some talk about the season. One player that I saw there that I am very excited about, and this is actually not even me talking about, we'll get to some Big Ten Media Days stuff here momentarily, but I do want to spend this time discussing what Jim Nagy, as I promised yesterday, we would talk about this. Jim Nagy, who is the executive director or executive VP of the Senior Bowl, he said this. We'll go ahead and read you the whole thing that he said. And this is some high praise, and this is exciting. This is very exciting. Much has been made of how much future NFL talent Michigan football has coming back on offensive line, but the Senior Bowl also has 2 prospects on defensive front graded near the top of their respective positions. Chris Jenkins, and that's no surprise, and edge rusher Braden McGregor. Both were in attendance today. Braden McGregor, that's the name that I want to highlight here. Bottom line, there are plenty of defensive tackles in this 2024 draft class with better measurables than Jenkins at 6'2", 2.4, 287 pounds at the time that they mentioned it here, then 33.5 arm. But if you have better tape, keep in mind Chris Jenkins, I believe, is up to. We'll get to that in a moment. Chris Jenkins is a fun study because he's a consistent factor versus both run and pass. He's an excellent technician. Shout out Mike Elston, who was also, I didn't mention him, he was there as well, who plays down the middle of blockers with natural 2-gap leverage, and he's athletic enough to get skinny and finish in the backfield. Staff sources say he's packed on 15 pounds of muscle this offseason, and we can't wait to see what that looks like on the field this fall. It's more than 15. It's more like 25. Last I talked to him, he was at like, and I mean, last time that I asked him specifically, which was a month ago, he was at like 305 and with the intention of getting to 310, 315. So I believe he's right there. Jenkins has all pro bloodlines, and we think he can make an immediate force at next level with his NFL ready game. Now here's I think the more intriguing part, because Chris Jenkins, I think, is, I don't want to say a known commodity, but we know who he is. We've been hearing great things about McGregor's spring work from staffers all offseason, and we were pleasantly surprised by how much we liked his 2022 tape. Things that got us excited about McGregor were his violence, aggression, and natural power. Reminded us of Bengals Pro Bowler Trey Hendrickson when we scouted him coming out of FAU. While our day 2 grade includes some projection, if he takes the expected next steps as a full-time starter, then Braden McGregor could be next in line of top 100 edge guys coming out of Ann Arbor. Winovich, Josh Uche, Rashawn Gary, Kwity Paye, Aiden Hutchinson, David Ajabo. Both Jenkins and McGregor could make big money in one-on-one pass rush drills in Mobile. So I feel like we're not talking about Braden McGregor enough. Chris Jenkins, we're talking about plenty. We're talking about him the same as we talk about Mozzie Smith and all of that. But Braden McGregor, I want to remind you, I've mentioned this even within the last week, that I had a bold prognostication when he committed. I think that I am way too That was way too bold, but then that's because I didn't expect Aiden Hutchinson to be quite as good as he ended up being. Right, Aiden Hutchinson kind of being in line with Chase Winovich is probably what I thought. Maybe not at that time. Chase Winovich was kind of coming on, but I mean, it was 2018. I thought, yeah, I mean, what we saw Chase Winovich in 2017, I guess that makes sense. That's what I expected is him to be that. I didn't expect him to be number 2 overall, almost the number 1 overall guy in the NFL draft. But I said at the time that Braden McGregor committed that whatever Aiden Hutchinson is, I expect him to be a better version of based off of what I'd seen out of both coming out of high school. I just felt like it was a higher ceiling. I still think that's possible. Higher ceiling, I think that's possible. Do I think it's probable at this juncture? No, I probably don't think that's probable. But it's possible. He's a little bit taller, a little bit longer. Like the violence, the aggression. Like you got to keep in mind that Braden McGregor, as a recruit, he started falling off, I think, a little bit even before his injury in high school. But he was, I was still at 24/7 Sports, and through a lot of his recruitment, I had my own deal by the time that he actually committed. But through a lot of his recruitment, I remember it was this. When is he going to get his 5th star? Because he was on that track, and it got derailed. I mean, I think that that one that, especially it was the beginning of his senior season in 2018 that he got injured. When that happens, that's you see it. You saw it with Tyler Morris as well. They don't get the same kind of accolades that they were getting, especially if you were on track to that 5th star. And you're kind of that middling 4-star. I mean, he was around top 100 as a recruit, and then he kind of was maybe like 150, and then he got injured, and then he becomes kind of an afterthought. He's still kind of working his way back, and we finally kind of got to see a little bit of what he was capable of this last season, just a little bit. Now he's going to be in a starring role, and certainly there's a lot of guys that are vying for, that playing time. Derek Moore and Josiah Stewart, and obviously Jalen Harrell. So I'm excited to see what he can do now that he's going to have time on task. I think it's going to be this is maybe my bold prediction. I think it's going to be a bigger jump from what we saw from Mike Morris, right? Going from, hey, you're not really playing, you're just kind of a guy who's out there supporting Hutchinson and Ojabo, and then it's like, oh, Mike Morris is the dude. Now we're talking about Braden McGregor that much as we were Aiden going into 2021 or Mike Morris last year. But I think you're going to see a similar jump. Now, is it going to be 1st round? I don't know. But I think that he has that potential. So I'm excited to see what comes out of the fall camp, and how he really establishes himself in that light. All right, we're going to move on. We're going to talk about the Beat Georgia drill. I asked every Michigan player at the Big Ten Media Days. I'm probably the last person to write about it, because I haven't written about it yet. But I asked every player as well. I did ask Jim Harbaugh. Someone else asked Jim Harbaugh. I think it was Aaron McMahon from MLive. But I want to discuss kind of why, the thought behind it, the consistency of the answers, and what excites me about the Beat Georgia drill. And we'll get to that momentarily. For those of you watching on video, I know you can't see Zuri, but she's right here. She's part of the show. She wants to be known as part of the show. She's having a great time here. See, I feel like now that we're talking about football rather than an event, a little less discombobulated. I feel like that first segment, it's like, relaying to you. I wish I could share more. I just recognize that some of the conversations I had, probably not a good idea to share. You know me, I don't err on the side of caution most of the time, but I'm doing so here for the sake of the program. Anyway. Let's get into this Beat Georgia drill. All 4 people, no, 3 of the 4 people that were asked about the Beat Georgia drill at Big Ten Media Days had the same exact response when asked about the Beat Georgia drill. I think it was Mike Sainristil was the only outlier. But the Blake Corum, who said he doesn't really know completely what it entails because he missed it while he was rehabbing. He wasn't watching practice. He hasn't partaken in it. But Jim Harbaugh, Blake Corum, I believe it was, and Chris Jenkins all said the same thing. They all quoted Ric Flair. If you want to be the man, you have to beat the man. And I think the interesting thing about the Beat Georgia drill is that, now keep in mind, they still have the Beat Ohio drill. That's still part of what Michigan is doing on the daily when it comes to practice. That's still a thing that they are doing. But the Beat Georgia drill is, they've added that with the idea of added physicality. As mentioned by everyone that was asked about it, the idea behind it is not just to, hey, Georgia is the one that we know that if we want to win a championship, we're going to have to beat Georgia. Hence, it's as we talked about yesterday with them saying championship or bust is not a thing. I do think it's kind of a thing in a way, because the Beat Georgia drill exists, and that's kind of implicitly telling you what their goals are ultimately. That, it's certainly one of their goals. They have other goals as well, but it tells you just the level of priority. And if they don't end up playing Georgia, I don't think that changes much. Actually, it really helps Michigan in a lot of ways, especially when you think about the landscape of what the Big Ten is, and what, Mel Tucker spent a lot of this time that I heard him talk both in the press conference as well as at the podium sessions about getting bigger. Like, hey, we want to be able to stop the run. We understand that that's what we need to do. You'll see that we are significantly bigger this offseason compared to what we were before. Michigan's prepared for that in the sense that their idea with the Beat Georgia drill is, we want to be able to run the ball when another team knows that we're going to run the ball and they're going to load up to stop the run. And we want to stop the run when it's obvious or not obvious that a team wants to run the ball, and they bring out a heavy set. So it's all about physicality, which can only help Michigan at this point. It can only continue to enhance what the Wolverines are trying to do. Honestly, the addition of the Beat Georgia drill, if Michigan can be more physical, more nasty, especially up front, if running backs other than Blake Corum, Donovan Edwards hits those home runs, but if Blake Corum, has been known this last year as the shifty guy. Now, this time last year, we didn't really think of him that way. We didn't think of him as Hassan Haskins, able to take 1 yard and make it into 3. We didn't think of it that way. What we did think about, we do think about him that way now. You hope Donovan Edwards takes that similar jump instead of just being like, he's a guy that's going to get you 2 or he's going to get you 70. But if the line can pave the way, and then you've got guys like CJ Stokes and Cole Cabana and Benjamin Hall and, a lot of these guys, Tavier Dunlap, whoever that it is that they end up going to, if they can all get on that same page of the physicality, being able to run the ball whenever they want to, regardless of how much a team stacked up against them, because I think that was one of the things that certainly it helped Michigan at points, was teams weren't loaded up to stop the run as much as they could have, because they were so terrified of JJ's arm for the first half of the season. And then they started trying to stop the run. And then you see like Ohio State, hey, we're going to stop the run at all costs. And then Michigan throws over them. And okay, now we've got to back into the same type of defense everyone else was playing against Michigan. And then Donovan Edwards breaks a couple big ones. Honestly, if this Beat Georgia drill works, it should make what happened in Ohio State, I'm talking about pre the Donovan Edwards touchdowns, having those the one drive where Michigan just methodically and slowly marched down the field, just basically taking their will to live, should make that even more prevalent and even against the bigger teams. The question is how will it look? How it looks in the beginning of the season is going to be completely different in terms of they don't play the meat of their schedule until those last 3 games. Sure, Purdue could be challenging, potentially. I don't know personnel-wise, but Ryan Walters certainly had some success when he was at Illinois. So I'm curious to see how that will go. Michigan State, I mean, that's obviously their MO. And now you're going to start seeing more teams adjusting what they're trying to do in order to beat Michigan more than trying to beat Ohio State. And especially if teams like Penn State and Ohio State, they know what Michigan's trying to do. If Michigan can still do it, I mean, that's what Ohio State has long been known for. We're gonna pass the ball all over you. We're gonna have all these high flying athletes flying all over the field, and nothing you can do about it. Michigan's gonna try to do the same thing, just in a different way, and I'm excited to see what that looks like. All right, that's gonna do it for us today. We'll continue on talking about Michigan stuff as usual. Of course, what else will we talk about? On Tuesday, we are back in the 5-day-a-week, so expect that. Less sporadic. That's the plan. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you again soon. Peace.